Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And welcome back to the Weird Science Comics YouTube channel, where I'm going to be going through Future State, the next Batman #1, a book that's one of the bigger books in Future State. The problem is there's a mystery going on within the book, and the mystery of who the next Batman is kind of got spoiled. So if you don't know what that is yet, I will be spoiling it here as well, just talking about the book and what's going on. But it is a 3-story book. Now, 2 of them are backups, they say, but they're the same page count as the next Batman. And by the end of the issue, that kind of irritated me a bit, but we'll talk about that by the end. But it's also seemingly to get $8 out of the fans, so that upsets me as well. But it's written by John Ridley and Nick Darrington, the next Batman story. Then you have Brandon Thomas and Sumit Kumar on an Outsider story, and Paul Jenkins and Jack Herbert on a Astrid Arkham Knight story. The art throughout is excellent. I like the art. The Nick Darrington art that you start with, it took me a little bit to get used to because he has a more cartoony deal, but I really liked it by the end. And with repeated readings, I liked it more and more. But you start out by showing the Batman, the next Batman, doing Batman things. He's taking down a bad guy. He's beating the crap out of him. But one of the big things we see in this is it doesn't matter if Batman's doing good, bad, or indifferent. He could be going to get an Egg McMuffin. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because he's wearing a mask, and that is in violation of the city code. The police come, little homages there to the Batman and Robin deal, where they end up going to arrest Batman, but he gets out of the way. He gets out of there. He zip lines out. Now, this setup is really to set up the idea, oh man, who's this next Batman? Because then when we go, Luke Fox is getting up late. He's tired. He was out all hours of the night. Oh my God, I think Luke Fox is the Batman's. And that plays off the idea that when 5G was going to be a thing, that it was kind of announced that Luke was going to be the next Batman. So the twist that it's not him gets spoiled, and that really does take away from a bunch of things in at least this first issue, because from what I have heard, we're going to get the reveal in issue 2. But he's there talking to his mom. They're going the deal. Now, while that's all going on, we go off to see that during a pretty much military state in Gotham, you're going to have some disenfranchised people. You're going to have it without that. And you end up having the Bane Lidos, a gang that's working out of Little Santa Prisca. Makes sense, right? Where they are recruiting kids to go out and kill people. There's big gang war going on. And I like to see the idea that there is a vacuum there where you get rid of the masks and you get rid of the people who take down these bad people. And so you have this, and I know that you're going with the idea, oh, they're so badass, they wear masks when it's not allowed. Well, they're also killing people. That's pretty bad too. I mean, the idea that you're going to wear a mask while doing it, yeah, it might be cool, but it doesn't really up the ante with me. It's a cool deal with the Bane Lidos, but it reminds me of back in the day, I even ended up not being able to go into our local mall because I had a red cap on, and somehow the mall security thought I was part of the Bloods. I mean, really? Me? But yeah, so this has been a thing, the whole deal of IDing yourself with that, but it's kind of a cool idea. I wish that it went more into the idea of Bane's philosophies and things like that, but you just kind of have it. These kids are going to join up. They're going to have to draw blood. Well, then we go off to see and introduce Tim Fox. Now, this is where the spoilers are. Tim Fox is the next Batman. You can't not have him in the first issue if you're going to reveal next issue it's him, because you're going to end up, hey, look at me, I'm Tim Fox. A lot of people, who? So you're setting this up. This is a lot of setup where their sister Tam is in a coma from getting back on the drugs. She's getting back on the crystal death. And I'm saying that is something. She ended up in the New 52 in the Batwing book with Luke Fox. She ended up getting addicted to this drug, and she did OD and became a vegetable. Now, this kind of swirls around of what's going on, because of the idea that you had that, And then we go into Rebirth, we go on, and we end up in the whole Batman Detective Comics deal where Tim Fox shows back up. Hey, look at me, I'm Tim Fox. And they're like, oh man, well, in that Tam's fine. I don't know how she got out of a vegetative state. Those usually are a one-way ticket. But she was fine. But now you're getting back to that here, and also kind of thinking that that meeting that we saw before may not have happened, or he left again, because they're arguing. Luke says, you left before. You weren't there for Tam. And he's like, man, I went to military academy. Well, when he came back recently in the books, he seemed like he was already 30 years old. And I don't think he was going back to military academy. So things kind of swirl around. But I kind of like that in the idea that we're seeing what's going on in this post-death metal timeline opening up things. This may be a hint that things will kind of mix and match and stuff. So I don't mind it. The one thing, though, is that you end up having Luke, listen, Tim, and he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. I go by Jace now. Like, really? You're playing this game? Tim was a bad guy, so I think that's what it is. But it reminds me of when you're playing a sport and you have a number, and that didn't work out for you. You know, you're like number 8, and you're going around, and then you get into trouble. Your wife's mad at you. Listen, I'm going to change. I'm number 24 now, right? You have that. So you have him change his name. We'll see what that all means. Now, you then go off, and I think that there's too many things going on, too many gears going here, because then you go off to see the Detective Chubb talk to her former partner, Whitaker, about what's going on in Gotham. Whitaker seemed to support the masks. He ends up quitting. He's not down with the magistrate, stuff like that. But the big key in this, in my mind, if I'm led to believe by the end, is that he is a guy who likes to go to the batting cages to hit some balls, right? He's hitting some balls. He's getting his practice in. He's good at swinging a bat. We'll wait. Also wearing a red helmet, man. It's kind of a push, but we'll see that by the end of what might be happening, because then we go back to the Bane Litos and the kids, and they end up seeing another gang member from the Hyper Gang, this other gang against them. Kind of in my mind is like a current day gang system of like the Batman Beyond deal. You just have these going on, but without a Batman that's really out there, or the Bat family, and the whole deal of the magistrate worrying more about taking down the good guys. You end up having this stuff going on, but it doesn't go well because Batman shows up and starts beating the crap out of Bane Litos. Just starts going. The police are after him. They're going to be after Batman just the same as well as the bad guys there, but also those kids are running off with masks. They're going to be shot down. Batman has to find them, and he does. He ends up grabbing them, gets them out of harm's way, and then says, hey, I'm going to send you to Children's Services, and you might be able to get things worked out. So you have that. It's one of those things where we're seeing what should be Tim/Jace Fox worrying about the kids, trying to make up, and in my mind, make up for his past sins and the things of him not being around for his sisters and his little brother, Luke. So he's doing that. And then we end, though, with this deal where a guy's being chased down by what looks like they'd call themselves the Red Hood Gang, but more like a Jason Todd Red Hood Gang type deal. And is the guy being chased down Whitaker because we barely saw him, or is the guy holding the bat that was swinging and taking cuts earlier Whitaker? I think that's the case. But that is the end of the first issue of the next Batman. We do have the backups, but I did like this. I just wanted more, and it's a shame that you end up wasting time playing a mystery that, unfortunately, with no fault of John Ridley's, it ended up getting spoiled. So some of the things end up wasting time that maybe we could have done something better if he would have known beforehand. But we go off to the Outsider story. It has Katana and Signal as the main characters here. And if you read Brian Hill's recent Batman and the Outsiders book, this is full out fan service for you. I think that people who didn't read the book will not get as much of a kick out of this as they would. I got a kick out of some of the characters, and you're going to end up having another wonky little thing with the timeline and stuff as we go on, because what ends up happening is Duke is trying to get people out of Gotham, making it the Outsiders. That's kind of the twist there with the name. But also the magistrate and his peacekeeper troops are causing a lot of trouble and seemingly have a lab outside, in the outside area, that Katana wants to take down. Well, Duke gets some people out of Gotham. while Katana then goes off to kick ass. And again, I like the art in this. Sumit Kumar does a really good job as Katana fights her way through this lab to get to Caliber. Caliber died recently, but here he is. He's back. And there's that 5-year difference. And you end up where 5 years in the future, Caliber could have been brought back by Ra's al Ghul. He claimed that in the Batman the Outsiders book, that Ra's al Ghul could always bring him back with the Lazarus Pit, or we could be getting one of those little changes in the timeline out of Death Metal. I want to see. But Katana's going to fight Caliber. They're going to go at each other. It's a pretty good fight. Throughout all this, you do have Katana talking to the Soul Taker Sword and her husband, Maseo, in it. I like the interactions there. You also have Caliber talking trash on Maseo and the sword, which I like as well. And the fight does end up looking like Caliber is going to kill Katana until all of a sudden, as this shock trooper guy is like, oh my God, it's lightning. Why is it black? Well, that's because it's Black Lightning, jerk, and he shows up. He's more of an elemental now, which actually goes in again. If you read the Brian Hill book, you ended up having Katana always calling him Ray Jin, the elemental name deal. So it's kind of a cool thing that happened. He comes in, completely wipes out all the troops, makes Caliber, and they all skedaddle. He doesn't kill them, but they have to get out, and they do. Katana is saved, and then Katana's like, oh my God, you've been cursed, Jefferson. Dark magic, all this stuff. And the elemental, which looks really cool, the elemental Jefferson, the elemental Black Lightning says, hey, you know those people earlier that Duke ended up getting out of the city? One of them is a mole for the magistrate, so you got to stop that. Okay, I liked this enough, but if you didn't read Batman the Outsiders, it may not hit as well as it did for me. The last part of this, the second backup, the third story, is the Astrid Arkham Knight story. I was not a fan of the Arkham Knight Astrid Arkham when it showed up in Detective Comics. So having this, I end up like, really? We're really doing this? And by this, even the Outsider story, I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And then we get to the Arkham, I'm like, really? I just want Next Batman. And again, these are each 20 issues long, just like the Next Batman. So by the time I get done this Arkham Knight, Astrid Arkham story, I barely even remember. I don't remember stuff. I barely remember the Next Batman. So you end up having Astrid going and getting a ragtag team of Arkham inmates. We had seen when she first showed up that she was somebody who looked at the inmates of Arkham as people, not monsters or not things like that. Also, they even ended up, a lot of them here, ended up delivering her when her mom was in Arkham and she was pregnant. So you have that connection. It continues here pretty much throughout all of this. You're going to get the idea that the magistrate has set up martial law. There's no human rights. Everybody's pissed off. Normal people are getting their skulls cracked. So they have to take it to the streets and stop it in a cool deal with villains instead of heroes here. And so they're going off. They're going to collect Killer Croc. They're going to get their full team together. And then you're just going to have the idea of her treating them as people. They have their base in former Wayne Manor. That's kind of a neat deal, but I want to know what led to that. And so just the idea, and specifically, she's dealing a lot with Dr. Phosphorus, who just wants to die. He's in constant pain. And just as an aside, he ends up the one who ends up killing Batman. But he's in constant pain here. He wants to go, and she's trying to get him help. She's trying to talk about it, treating him like a person, treating him like somebody who needs to, be able to be talked to like a person. Well, then they just go off, and they're going to kick ass. They're going to go and fight the magistrates, people, the peacekeepers that are the main leaders of the crackdown forces. And they do. They end up going and attacking, and they end up bringing down the peacekeeper of their area, Peacekeeper 12. And then in a symbolic deal, put his helmet up on a pike and walk off into the sunset like badasses. They ain't going to turn around. There should be an explosion they're not going to turn around from. But yeah, you end up with all these. And again, you have an oversized issue that, please, it's called Next Batman. Give us 40 pages of Next Batman and 10 pages of each of these stories. Nobody picking up this story originally was going to pick it up because of an Astrid Arkham Knight story. You are duping people. It's pretty much bait and switch to get that $8 there. And on top of that, most people know who the Next Batman is. So unfortunately, that part of the next Batman didn't play off well either. So what you end up feeling, and I felt by the end of this was more about the Outsiders and the Arkham Knights than it was about the next Batman. That got me mad. Then I read it again and kind of started liking the Outsider story and even getting a little kind of deal with the Arkham Knight. But it does not change my idea of this being more of a bait and switch than it should be. And so with that, still, I give it a 7.5. I am interested in at least the next Batman and see how that plays out. I am interested in seeing what's going on in Gotham, and you're getting that through the Outsiders and the Arkham Knight story. Now, I will tell people, though, the other thing they're playing is next issue of the next Batman, we won't get the Outsider story of the Arkham Knights. That will be in issue 3. They're playing this game so much to put people and keep them hostage. Really, because you can't even go with I wanted the Astrid Arkham story, so you're going to end up buying different. It's nonsense. But overall, a 7.5. So this is a positive deal for me. I actually am liking some of these Future State books. I am excited to get back to books in March as well. And that's really all I want to have happen out of all this. So I hope that everybody is feeling the same. But thanks for watching this. And please, if you like it, subscribe to the channel. Click on the like below, all that stuff. And then look at the notes below that has all of the podcasts and websites that were involved with DC and Marvel. Also a Patreon if you want to get even more stuff. But I'm going to go now because I'm losing my voice. And I will talk to you later.